Welcome to Season 2 of the Aiki Dojo Podcast. I'm David Ito, Chief Instructor of the Aikido Center of Los Angeles, and with me is...
Bill D'Angelo, Aikido Center, 4th Dan Aikido. So how are you today, Sensei?
I'm good.
This is our first podcast of the new year. Good energy.
First podcast of the new year. First podcast post-COVID.
We hope.
We hope. I mean, for me, I had COVID at the start of the year. I'm not sure if that's a good omen or a bad omen.
Well, at least maybe you have additional immunity from having gotten Omicron. Assuming you got Omicron, since you weren't that sick.
We have another listener question. You want to read it?
Sure. We have a listener question from Fuji Yuji, who has asked us, what is it like for Ito Sensei to teach in other dojos? First question. From what I gather, your dojo seems to be more old school with harder training, which I personally prefer. Are there any funny stories or large cultural differences with these types of experiences? And then a follow-up comment. I'm also interested in teaching methodology, especially in the circumstances of being in another dojo. Some things at my dojo would be 100% no-go, but are okay in other schools.
Well, the hardest part teaching in another dojo is that you don't want to step on the toes of the teacher.
Yeah.
So I personally think that when you go to another dojo, my job is to inspire, not to teach. Because, if I teach you something, I'm only there for an hour, 2 hours, maybe 7 hours. I've been at some dojos where I taught 7 classes in a week. But how much are they really going to pick up?
Yeah. Now, is that a conclusion or a methodology that you've been developing over a long period of time, or did it come through experience of early seminars where you're like, people aren't getting it, it's too complicated? How did you come to that teaching philosophy? Well,
because, I would teach, I've taught outside of this dojo at several different dojos and seminars. And, you teach something and you look around and you're like, how many of these people aren't doing what I'm doing? They're doing their own thing.
Yeah.
And because they're doing their own thing, you're like, oh, see, that's the cultural difference. In Japan, you're supposed to do what the teacher's doing, even if it's not something that you do.
You just do it that way for that class.
Right, because they're not testing you on how good you can do something, so to speak. They're testing you on how well you can follow, how well you can do what they're doing and then do it well. Like one time a teacher came to our dojo, and he's a well-known, 7th, 8th Dan Shihan, and he taught this class, and then afterwards he was like, he took me aside and he said, you're the only person that's ever picked up my style in one class. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, well, no, because you were able to do what I do. And I was like, I just copied.
So when you teach, or when people from other dojos come to visit, which is almost similar kind of thing, why do you think it is that students have a hard time being in the moment, in a sense, in terms of just doing what's in front of them, not worrying about whether it's effective, not worrying about whether it's their style or not, and just saying, oh, I'm going to try to just get into the river of this person's teaching, even if I step out of it the next day?
I mean, I don't know if it's ego, cultural difference, lack of ability, or whatever it is, but whatever. The thing is, whenever you go someplace, you have to do what they're doing. They're not you. I don't care how much you know or how good you are.
Right.
What I care is like, oh, I'm more impressed by people who go, wow, that person copied. Some people go, oh, I watched their Aikido and it looks a lot like ours, or I watched their Aikido and it's not very effective, or it is effective. Those are just judgments.
Right.
Right. But like when you go places, you want to demonstrate how good of a student you are, and not how good you are.
Right.
Right. And so, like, for instance, one time I was teaching overseas, and I was doing Yokomanuchi Shihonage, Tenshin style. So I tenshin, fade back, demonstrate the technique, and then I just go around throwing people.
Right.
I go to throw this one guy who was a first degree black belt, and he switched the ukemi on me. And then so then when he changed the ukemi, I just switched the technique into iriminage and threw him down.
Okay.
So I go, oh, and I kind of threw him down in a rough way. So I go, oh, let's change the technique. No, I didn't change the technique. I just said, oh, let's do it again. And then he did it again, and I just threw him down, iriminage instead of shuhonage, and then dropped my knee right into his rib cage. And then I go, let's switch the technique to iriminage.
In terms of like, Fujiyuji's talking about some things are good, some things are or not good, but he talks about a go, no go. Is the knee and the ribs the part of the DNA from our dojo? Because my reaction to that is it might be a little bit.
It's not the DNA of our dojo. It's just in that moment, like I got mad,
and you let yourself go.
Yeah, because this person, I said I did shuhonage, and I had to change it into iriminage. I said, okay, no, this is how you take the ukemi, and then I did it again, and he did it again, and then I just said okay, and then I just drove my knee into his his rib cage. But that's more of like the meanness of Aikido. Like that's the hard part. Like you think, oh, Aikido's for self-defense only and all this type of stuff. But like it's a martial art, right? It's a lethal martial art. Every one of the techniques is totally lethal. So when you do something and the person changes the ukemi, you have to change the technique. Yeah, you have to adapt. You have to change the technique. And so when I threw him down, he was kind of a bigger guy, and the rib cage was right there, and I just dropped my knee right into the rib cage. Ugh, is all I heard. And like, okay, let's change to iriminage now. But then afterwards, he was so impressed with my ability. He was like, afterwards, he went up to one of my assistants, and he's like, I would like to join your organization. And because he had left the school that we were teaching at and kind of betrayed the teacher, I said, no. Yeah. Can't join, and then that teacher ended up leaving later on. I should have just brought that guy in, but he told one of the assistants, like, no one's ever been able to throw me down like that. And you think, what? That's ridiculous, but that, and he was only first degree black belt.
But he might not have ever experienced.
Right. He doesn't, he was out of the school that I was teaching at wasn't a very strong Aikido school.
Right. So that might have been a first-time experience for him.
Yeah.
Very eye-opening.
And then you have to be very spontaneous. You got to be able to pivot when you do Aikido. When the person does something, you have to be able to adapt and change in that moment.
Okay, so following up on, because Fujiyuji talks about a couple different things in here. One, just kind of wanting to get anecdotes from you, but then also talking about how to determine whether something is a go or not go. I have a question which kind of dovetails from what Fujiyuji is asking is, how long ago was that experience that you had? 2 years, 3 years?
Oh, like 13, 14 years ago.
Okay. So would you still, like, if let's say we went to a seminar next weekend that you were teaching at, and someone, after being told or instructed that this is the way to do the ukemi correctly to protect yourself, they either jam you or switch up the ukemi for their own personal reasons, do you think you'd still do that today, or would you just be like, kind of like,
well, I have a mental problem, right? So then, like, just a few years ago, I was teaching locally at another dojo, and we were also to teach one hour, and so I decided to do a whole bunch of atemi Aikido.
Okay.
And the person in front of me taught this class and said that we shouldn't do any atemi. And I was like, oh, I already prepared.
Oh, no.
And then I thought, I don't care. I'm going to teach the guy said, teach whatever you want. So I taught atemi. So two of the people in the class were 6th Dan Aikido teachers.
Wow.
Right. And then I did kata tori ikkyo with atemi.
With all the atemis.
With all the atemis, all the bells and whistles. And then, like you watch people just can't do it. And then I looked over, and then these two Aikido teachers were working in tandem in a triple.
Three-person.
With this white belt who was a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt. And so I'm kind of like watching, and then they can't do
the technique.
Ikkyo, or I think I even did Nikkyo too. They couldn't do Ikkyo or Nikkyo on this kid. And then, of course, like me, I was like, oh, this is not going to happen on my watch, right? And so I go over there, and then I just let it rip on this kid. And then, like it was successful. And then I said, all right, now you know what I'm going to do. You felt it, right? Yeah. Now resist me.
Right.
And then he tried to resist, and I still did it. And then when I applied the atemi, he was just like, oh, my gosh. And I was like, okay, give it a try, and just walked away. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I think it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's
And what do you mean by bad? Bad for the students, bad for the teacher,
both.
bad for the school?
It's bad for everything because like I allowed my temper
To intervene. Yeah.
Right? Like I didn't first think, well, I'm going to try to show them how to do it correctly. I was like,
Yeah. I'm going to stamp this
then
out.
then I was like, you're a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt, right? Yeah. All right. Do what you would do against this technique. You know what the technique looks like. You know what the ukemi is like. Do your thing. And he tried to do it. It didn't work. Right. But then this doesn't make me awesome or anything like that. It's just that we're doing something which is within my wheelhouse. Right. Katatori is like a very strong technique for me.
Right.
And the atemi is even stronger. Right. And so how is this person going to try to reverse it? And it's going to work. It's not going to work. But the point is that like, was that polite? Was that proper? So a while back, right, I was at the seminar and I was younger and I was like taking it to every person I trained with, like dialing it up to clicking that thing onto 11. And at the end, the teacher told the teacher who was teaching the seminar paid me a compliment. And the person said, "Oh, you are strong like a college student."
Oh yeah, I remember the story.
And I was like, "Yeah, that's
You're
right.
like, no,
I'm here. I'm decades out of college. I'm pretty strong." And then someone else told me, "No, that means you're immature."
Right.
And I was like, "Oh, sick burn." Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is it shows my immaturity as a teacher to go around beating people up, to go around teaching something crazy. So like you should just teach a very basic, strong Aikido class when you go someplace else. You shouldn't teach to teach. You shouldn't teach to
Impress.
show off, but just inspire them. That they go, wow, this person's Aikido strong. So that being said, one time I taught this class at a different dojo where I stair-stepped it from a basic technique all the way to something completely outlandish, right? And afterwards, and then I was like, oh, this is I thought it was really cool because I took a basic technique,
broke it down,
got them good at the basic technique, and then
gave them more.
I created this other complete layer to show. I wanted to show them like, look, this is what you can do when you get good at this technique. And then afterwards, I was talking with the teacher, and this was a very long seminar. And the teacher said, "Oh, I much prefer Watanabe Sensei's technique class than yours because it's much more basic."
Right.
And I was like, "What the heck?"
Yeah.
And I get what they're saying because but there's all these reasons why it could be right or it could be wrong. But then I was trying to inspire them, like look what you can do once you get good at Aikido.
Right.
And so I don't take it negatively. I just say, well, that's your
So is
assertion.
So what you're talking about, this layering, building in some confidence, then expanding, but then kind of pressure testing a little bit. What about that process for you either continues an old school tradition or you think it's not an old school tradition? Because the Fuji Yuji's talking about this person's impression of the style of our Aikido. And I'm just curious whether you think you've evolved past an old school style, or let's back up. What do we think Fuji Yuji, since Fuji's not here, means by old school?
I don't know what he means by old school because in old school, you never shared your technique. Like I was at Iwataya in Japan, and I was really impressed because Kitaji-san said, "Oh, you guys tend to wear your hakumas very low. Most people don't wear your hakumas that low." And the reason why we wear ours really low, and then Furu Sensei's hakama used to trail on the ground, is to hide your footwork. Because if they could figure out your footwork, they could figure out the timing. And they could figure out the timing, they could figure out how to resist the technique. And so you would never go to another school and impart some real pearl of wisdom. You would always and hold back your secret, because if you gave them their secret, they could defeat you.
Right.
And so, for me, it's more of a temperament problem. Like if I used to go places, and if they didn't do the technique my way, I would just go around beating everyone up.
Right.
But then, you're kind of like a serial killer, right? You're like a psychopath. And that's not the right way either, because you're not really imparting the true philosophy of Aikido. right? You're just expressing your displeasure and anger on people, when then that's not the point either.
Yeah.
And so now I've kind of gone the complete opposite way, where I used to do this whole dead face thing, and people would be like, hey, the look on your face when you do Aikido scares me. And then now I go like, hey, how's it going? But even then I go, oh, that's not right either, because that's not real either. Yet maybe I should just do Aikido the way I do Aikido and not hold back. But then I hold back because you have to hold back because you're trying to show that you're not immature. So that's very difficult, right? So when you're teaching at a place, you should always err on the side of decorum. Not too flashy, not too basic. And then you don't go around going, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. You don't know the difference between Ikkyo and Nikkyo? You should give back that black belt. You can't say stuff like that. You have to just, we don't understand where people come from and what it takes to get them to the place that they're at. And so we should be less judgmental.
Yeah.
So when you teach a class at a foreign dojo, you should always just teach a very basic. Fun, like a class where they got a good workout. You shouldn't teach to teach. You shouldn't teach to impress. You shouldn't teach to show off. You should just teach something basic. But it's really hard to do that.
Yeah.
Especially when you go places and, like you should never jam the teacher when the teacher's teaching the class. But I've gone maybe it's because I'm small, or maybe it's because I have an attitude. But when I would teach at a place, people would try to jam me as a teacher. And I'd be like, oh.
That's like green light.
Yeah. And then I would just make an example of that person.
Right.
And then smash them on the
ground. But I get the feeling a lot of the time, unless it's with a certain number of people inside this dojo, like some of the old school, I don't want to call it angularity because a lot of Aikido is circular, but a lot of the sharp elbowed aspects of Aikido, at least my experience, since we've known each other for a very long time, that some of what I think Fujiyuji is talking about is old school, which is violence.
Well, that's that thing. Like in the old days, martial arts was violent.
Yeah.
I met when I was working at Sears 20 years ago, I met this guy who knew Fru Sensei. And he was like, oh, I know Fru Sensei. And I go, oh, did you do Aikido? No, I did karate. And then the thing he said to me, he said, I did karate when karate was real. And I was like, what do you mean by that? And he would tell me these stories about like, they didn't do like point competitions where you tap them in the face and you get the point. No, like you're knocking the person out. And then if you felt like someone got a point on you that wasn't real, you fought him in the dressing room. I was like, dude, this is crazy, But like there's this, when you teach Aikido now has become kind of like a meditative movement, which is fine. Everything has its place, but then at some places it's lost its martial flavor. No, I mean, like... This
is off topic from what Fujiyuji's talking about, but Fuji's talking a little bit about go, not go, no go, no go. What has your experience been? I mean, I have my own views on this, but I'm just curious to hear what you have to say on how you manage that. How do you contain that level of conflict while still encouraging people to practice very hard, but not end up having there to be... let's say cliques or groups are fighting each other inside your own school?
It's very difficult because the thing is that you want, as Fru Sensei always advocated, is you always take it to that person's level and one step farther.
Right.
And that one step farther is that one last rep that you have to force out is where you get all the benefit.
Right.
But then what ends up happening is that once you take it just a little too farther out of their comfort zone, they hate you for it. And so you have to... like I advocate that today in this dojo, that people should push each other hard, but not in a way in which they become a jerk.
Right.
And so how do you not make it? You have to have the clear intent. Oh, I had a really bad day at work. Then I shouldn't really take it to anyone.
Yeah.
But if you take it to someone and you're pushing them and they get a little roughed up or get hurt, you have to say you're sorry afterwards. You can't wait a couple days, a month, 2 weeks from now. Hey, about that the other day, I'm sorry. Right away, after class, right then, or after class. Hey, man,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry about that. I'm just trying to push you to make you better. Oh, okay. As opposed to you let it go, and then that person goes, oh, Bill has a problem, and then now you create this animosity, and then for 20 years you have this animosity before you realize it was what. Right. It wasn't. There was no malice.
So what do you think is the most distinguishing feature between a school that claims to have old school lineage versus, like as you say now, Aikido is taught in a lot of places, not everywhere. It's kind of a moving meditation. What do you think is the dividing line between old school and the sort of newer techniques for teaching?
It's really hard. Like if you think of like shihonage, right? There's three ways to take the ukemi for shihonage. You potty squat and fall down backwards. You step back, fall down backwards, or you break fall.
Right.
Right. Today, if you go to like Homa Dojo, some other places, they don't allow the potty squatting method where you kind of back bend and sit down. They only want the stepping back method. And that stepping back method is it works. But if someone does shihonage on you really, really hard and fast,
you won't have the ability to step back.
There's no time to step back.
Yeah.
And then break fall is just a contrived thing anyway. So it's not even really the proper ukemi for shihonage. So then, but you might get told wrong. That's wrong.
Right.
If you do the potty, the sitting down butt squat method.
Which may be the only way to save yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I do is I hide it. I end up the way that they would end up with the stepping back style.
But you start with the
I
protective potty squat.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I have two separated shoulders, two hyperextended elbows from people who are a tad bit overzealous in their Aikido technique. And so I know how to take the proper ukemi both ways, and I could also break fall if I felt like, but I'm too short for a shihonage break fall.
You have to really jump.
I got to jump over their arm. And if they're much taller than me, it's too hard.
You can't do it.
Right.
Yeah.
But the point is that like there are certain things that we take out or evolve out of the movement, which is beneficial for the student, right? Especially if you're over the age of 30,
Right.
You shouldn't, like someone the other day asked me, hey, can I learn how to break fall? And I'm like, you're a little too old for that. And then not in a bad way that old is being bad. It's just that the arc of learning Aikido, the break fall in Aikido is so sharp that you could end up hurting yourself more than helping yourself by the time you end up learning how to break fall. So it's really of no benefit. Like I consider myself, not because I'm awesome, that as an expert in break fall. And even today at 51, I go, I don't really feel like I don't feel like break falling because right now I have a rotator cuff injury.
You don't want to risk it.
I've had 3 to 5 concussions. And there you go. What's the risk? I mean, what's the benefit? I make you look good by me break falling, but I'm going to get hurt because you don't know how to throw someone with break fall. So it's that thing where if we think about, we come back to what your question was, is that it's really hard because some things are, like the way people forward roll today. In the old days, you went over the shoulder. Today, they're turning and going across the back.
Right.
It's safer so you don't get a head injury. But the thing is, it hurts you later when you try to break fall.
Because you don't have the mechanics right.
The mechanics is not proper, right? But then how many people are going to go break falling? When I was a student...
It's everybody. Almost.
No, when I was a student, very few people did a break fall. One time, Doshu came to San Francisco, and afterwards, this guy took me aside and said, I saw you break falling, man. That was phenomenal. Can you show me how to break fall? So I was showing him how to break fall, and then a crowd gathered watching me teach this guy how to break fall. But if you fast forward 20 years now, everyone break falls. I watch these videos of these Russian guys teaching like yellow belt kids how to break fall, and I'm like, oh man, you're setting these kids up for problems later in life because how many times you hit your head when you're learning how to break fall is like
a lot.
Yeah. And then that's where you end up having these like micro twisting concussions that they don't even know how to measure today.
Yeah.
Right. So like that's the hard part. If you're going to teach something, we take some of these things out because they're the cost benefit analysis doesn't come back very good. And so you say, okay, everyone should step back in shihonage. But then later on, when someone tries to ring your bell, you're going to get stuck under your leg, and then you're going to end up hurting your shoulder.
Yeah, I mean, I know I had an experience. I won't name the dojo, but you probably know where they are. This goes to, I think, like my experience of thinking that I was in an old school practitioner when I was very young, like maybe first degree black belt. And I was at this other dojo that I was visiting because I was traveling, and there was a big guy. I mean, taller than me and bigger than me. But I was watching him before we practiced together, and he seemed like, dialed in. And we went to do Shihonage, and I like really threw him hard, and he didn't follow. And so like he was in a position where he either had to break fall or basically like bear hug me to stop the technique. And I realized at that point that I had assumed that this person was going to do a break fall or something equivalent. And then when they didn't, I was like, I put them in jeopardy because of my own ego. And I mean, I'm not a teacher, but being a student, it's interesting because I think that we, going and visiting other places as a student, as opposed to the teacher, you can still bring with yourself some habits you have to be careful of.
Yeah, I mean, because you don't know what the true level of the practitioners are that you're working with, but also, what are you trying to demonstrate? You're trying to demonstrate that you're good.
Yeah, and I'm sure for me it was an ego-related thing. I was probably I'm going to throw this guy because he's bigger and heavy, and I'm going to like mangle him. Instead, I almost like hurt him and myself.
Yeah, but that's the hard part that you have to. That's why it's like it really comes back to decorum,
right?
That you should err on the side of decorum, and think about your own what could happen, the consequence of what might happen if you take it to this person,
right?
And I once went to this dojo where I did not teach.
So you were just practicing,
but I was invited to come.
Okay.
And at this dojo, the black belts practice with the black belts, the white belts train with the white belts. And at that time, Furuya Sensei had been passed away for a year, so I wore a white belt. And when I got there, I knew some of the people higher ups, so I talked to them for
Were
a
you
little
wearing
bit.
a hakama?
I was wearing a hakama.
Okay.
And it was weird because none of the black belts would train with me. And I'd be like, onegaishimasu, and then just walk away. They would just walk away.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. To the point where all the white belts were relegated to the corner. And then I was training with the white belts. And I remember I was doing Tenkan Kokiho with this girl, and I didn't do it very fast or strong, and then would just let her fall out of it. And then my arms were up in the air.
Mm-hmm. And
then she's like, aren't you going to throw me?
Oh, yeah.
And then I went, click, what? And then I just smashed her. And
Yeah.
she goes, it wasn't a challenge. I was just asking a question. I go, oh, you should just fall down then. But I mean, I started just smashing her. And then at the end of the class, they announced, oh, and thank you, David Ito Sensei from Aikido Los Angeles for coming. And people were like, oh.
Crap.
And then people came up to me afterwards, I didn't know you were a black belt. I would have trained with you. And I wanted to say, how rude.
Right.
That when I said onegaishimasu to you, you walked away from me. And then had that been 10 years before,
It'd be a bad situation.
I would have just started just pounding every person I got my hands on, and then just started going after people because I had this attitude problem. But the point is that the culture of the dojo was to split them up and do all these things, and everybody gets to train who they want to train with, and the white belts train with the white belts, black belts train with the black belts. But it's rude.
Yeah.
Right? Because you end up isolating, being mean to someone that you don't want to be mean to, and then that person either has ill feelings or takes it to you. And then you go, oh no, oh my gosh, sorry about that.
So do you think that now that maybe the pandemic is slowing down, some of England and Ireland have pulled back some of their restrictions? I know we've got a seminar on the schedule for March. Thinking about how you teach in other dojos, but when you teach the seminar here and you have students visiting from their schools, is there anything that you do as the teacher to prepare for that, or is it just the same program?
It's the same program, and then as a policy, I never, or rarely, if ever, correct a student that's not from this dojo. I mean, I'll correct people from Spain or something from affiliated dojos, but I will not correct a visitor. Like a visitor comes, some dude from Las Vegas shows up on a Wednesday to take the class.
You just let him practice.
I just let him practice.
Yeah.
But there's times where I'm even as a teacher, I go, I'm going to pound this person, and then I just, bow into them and then just beat them. But you shouldn't do that. But as a policy, I do not correct visitors or people who aren't my student,
Right.
just because. You don't know where they're at.
Etiquette.
It's bad etiquette. You don't know where they're at. Are they here to learn? Or are they just here to get a workout because they're on a layover from Chicago and, they just want to, burn off some calories. And then here you are, oh, no, you got to move your foot like this. Like,
and some people go to their dojos to meet people, to make friends.
all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so, and even now, it's like I try not to correct people too much. As, you know, if we talk about how do you teach as a teacher, a teaching methodology, my personal philosophy is that you shouldn't impede the student very much with a lot of words.
Mm-hmm.
They have to learn and grow and get it out of their system on their own. So if we take Shihonage, for instance, you demonstrate the technique, you make a couple of points, you let everybody go. And then you just get people to do the technique as many times as they can, because how they get better is reps on the technique. And so I also have this idea that you really need them to get into this subconscious pattern of programming to where their body starts to move like Aikido. But if I constantly stop them, they're going to come out of subconscious and go back into conscious and listen to what I have to say because I'm trying to be smart, pontificate about the technique. They can't learn. You cannot learn Aikido consciously. Your body can only learn it subconsciously. And so the more you talk, the less they do, the slower they learn the technique.
Yeah. And that philosophy remains pretty much the same during a seminar when people are visiting our school.
Yeah, I mean, seminars, you should stop them more. You should make points because, it's a seminar, but it depends on who comes. Like, let's say this seminar in March, not that no outsiders come. Well, it's just going to be 7 straight hours of the
regular class.
But then the other teachers talk more than I do.
Yeah.
It doesn't make me bad and them good. It's just,
and you think that's maybe a little bit of a seminar style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I personally believe that the more you talk, the less they do, and the slower they get better. The more they just do it and do it and do it, their body will come about, and then they'll just be doing it. But if I stop them and pontificate on your toe needs to be at 39 degrees. Bill, you failed geometry class. That's 32 degrees.
Right.
Your toe needs to be at 39 degrees. They're never going to understand that. Right? So if I say to you, I'm thinking of a fruit. It's round. It can be sweet. It can be sour. It grows on a tree. What fruit am I thinking of?
Orange, lemon.
Well, I'm thinking of grapefruit. So you obviously are an idiot. See, you're telling them things which they have no frame of reference of what you're talking about.
Right.
Because they have to learn it with their bodies first. And you can't learn Aikido with your mind. Contrary to popular opinion, you cannot learn things in a conscious thing where you're like going, yeah, oh yeah. No, you must learn it subconsciously to where when you're driving down the street, you go, you don't drive down the street and go, there's a car coming. What should I do?
Turn.
No, your body has to just go, and you go, whoa, that was crazy. How did I know to do that? You learn that subconsciously. So that's the hard part about learning things and teaching things. What does it mean to be a good teacher?
Right.
So when you think about teaching methodologies, old school, new school, right? Like if you think about what people understand today, Google polled their employees and they asked them to rank from 1 to 10 the characteristics of a good manager. The 10th was technical ability.
Right.
Technical prowess. The first was being a good coach.
Yeah.
So what does it mean to be a good coach, right? What does it mean to teach someone something? I want you to do the techniques as many times as you can because you have to get that technique into your body so that when a mugger jumps out of the darkness, you're not like, oh, which hand am I supposed to use?
Yeah.
Your body goes right into Nikkyo. It goes right into Sankyo. It goes right into this boom, 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 because it's become what they call second nature.
Right. This teaching by demonstration, catching the technique, repetition, did you get exposure to this and develop it solely in Aikido, or did you do any sports before Aikido?
I didn't do any sports.
You didn't do any sports.
But I'm also very autodidacting, right? Mm-hmm. So Furuya Sensei's style is very much like that. He demonstrated the technique, and then you just did it.
Right.
And then he would go sit in his chair, and only really the person in front of the chair got correction, and then every once in a while he would walk around. But he didn't go around throwing people a whole lot. He didn't go around correcting every person in the class. I do though. I try to look at every person and think and watch them before I start flapping my gums. I watch and I think,
see what's happening.
and I think, what could be the one thing I could tell Bill which will flip the switch and change it? What will be the tipping point?
Right.
But if I just go, oh, no, Bill, 41 degrees, Bill, 41 degrees, you're not going to get it because you're going to be thinking, oh, what is 41 degrees, right? But you have to just movement. And then sooner or later, the movement will become second nature. And then when someone attacks you, your hand just comes up. Like you can't, what you're teaching is foreign, right? You're learning a skill.
Right.
How do you learn a skill? You don't learn a bicycle by someone telling you how to ride a bicycle.
You ride the bicycle.
You got to ride it, fall off, get back on, ride a little more. And then one day you're like, look, Mom, no hands. Right. And so like one day, understanding this idea about like learning with your body. So in our dojo, we do a whole lot of like shomanuchi kokyu like this.
Yeah.
So me and my buddy were fixing the garage door spring on my garage. And we had never done it before. We had no idea what we were doing. And so he's fixing the broken side. I'm fixing the good side. And then, so I'm cranking it like this. And then not knowing that
the spring
is still on tension. It goes whang. And then the bracket that opens and closes the hinge that opens and closes the garage door just goes right at my face. And then my hand just went like that. And then my buddy was like, oh my gosh. And then here I was like standing there holding it with the garage door hinge like this on tension. And then he had to come over and like grab it, and then we had to like put it down. But had I not done this technique so many thousands of times, I might have a little divot in my skull. But like right when it broke, my hand, without thought, just came right up and blocked it. And how are you gonna explain to someone how to do that unless they just do it over and over and over again?
Yeah. So when you're talking about this teaching methodology where you something is demonstrated for you, you look at it, you repeat it. You talk about Furuya Sensei style is he didn't throw people a lot when he was teaching class, but some teachers do throw people in class, or they go around and they'll throw each person. If a teacher does that, and from your perspective, what is the benefit for the student of the teacher getting to throw each individual person during class?
Well, in Japan, they want to know, what did the technique feel like? In the West, they want to know, what did he do? They want to understand. Japan, in Asia, they want to know what it felt like, because what it feels like is something you can recreate, because it's more concrete than these concepts. It's
a discussion.
I threw him down with a flowery bouquet of, what the hell does that even mean, right? But if you feel it, you could try to recreate that feeling. And once you recreate the feeling, you look at what the person did. Oh, I can see what you did, right? And so, if the teacher is kind enough, they'll go around and throw every person so they can feel what it feels like
to do the technique.
Yeah. But like for me, if you came up to me and said, I did a calculation and Furuya Sensei only threw you 30 times in 17 years, I would go, oh, that's about right, because he rarely used me for ukemi. He only used me for ukemi when he was mad. Like if you came up and you blew the attack twice, he would go, David.
Right.
And then I would run up and do the thing. But like, or he threw me for demonstration and for like video covers and
for things
TV
like that.
shows and stuff like that. But like, but in a pedagogical sense, on a daily basis, he almost never threw me.
So this story reminds me of a whether it's true or not true, doesn't really matter. It's sort of the memory. Is a lot of people, when you read what the Shihans in the diaspora, the ones that left Japan to go to England or France or America, when they get asked what was it like to be thrown by a sensei, the recollections that I remember are often, I would do the attack, and then I don't even know what happened. I'm on my back. I'm thrown off the edge of the mat. Whatever the outcome is, but it's usually some outcome in which the throw has been very powerful, but it's very hard to determine what happened. Well, could you maybe talk about that and then discuss how that might have effects today in how you decide to teach?
Well, the reason why, like, Sensei, he comes from an old school background where they don't tell you what they did. Because remember, in the old days, it was very close to the vest.
Right.
If I tell you the secret, you could leave and come back and destroy me.
Right.
And then beat me. So I always had to hold out to the very last second. Bill, as I'm on my deathbed, the secret is orange juice. And you're like, what the hell?
Right.
Because, it was very competitive, right? So like in the old days, if you went to challenge someone in their school and beat them, you could break their kaban, their sign, and then you could take the whole school for yourself. And all those people would have to choose to become your student or close down. And so that's why prior to 1868, there were very few public demonstrations.
Right.
Because if I showed you the technique, you could get because remember, the martial arts of that are supposed to be much better than today. They're supposed to be able to look at it and go, boom, I got it.
Right.
Like right now I'm watching Heroes with Vincent Zhao.
Yeah, you mentioned this show.
It's a really good TV show. It's like 45 episodes. But many times when he's challenged, like he got challenged by a Iron Claw school, and when they challenged him, he used Iron Claw on them, and they were like, "How did you learn that style?"
So and he just watched you.
Well, he watched them, but he's very well read, or he fought a Bagua teacher, and he did Bagua on this guy, and then he said that once when I was a little kid, Master such and such, who was a Bagua teacher, came and sparred with my father, and I picked up some techniques. I'm very sorry if my technique is not very good. And they're just like, oh my God, like your technique was just as good as ours, but you were just pretending to do that style.
Yeah.
Right. So that same type of thing is like you couldn't show people your famous cut unless you killed them.
Right.
Or dueled them. You couldn't show them your family secret, because the secret, it could be used against you. And so today, right, when you show different things, you sometimes could give people too much information, and then they got the technique, and then they can overtake you.
Right. So clearly that's something that's old school that probably has changed quite a bit, because our theory of education is very different now. And now it's like, well, maybe ask you the question, like, are there techniques that in your mind are reserved for full-time members versus people that might only be visiting? Or do you pay attention to who's in the class in terms of what you might teach for that day?
Well, no, to me, I don't think there's anything that's not for everyone, just because there are no secrets. You got to apply yourself to the technique and then get good at the technique. But the technique itself opens up all these doors. And then you do things and, like you can't really teach certain things. So like once I was at a seminar, huge seminar. And, I was being very rambunctious and like, putting the wood to people. And they're like, oh, wait till this one teacher shows up. When he shows up, he's going to smoke you. And I was like, okay. And then the teacher,
now you're waiting.
And then the teacher showed up. And at first I was like, oh man. And so I tried to stay away from him because he was much older than I am, much higher ranked than I am. And I was like, oh, I bit off more than I can chew today. And then he goes, onegai shimasu. And I was like, okay. So we did iri minage, ski iri minage, right? And then in the middle of the ski, he changed the attack. And in an instant, I threw him down. And then he gets up and he's all, oh, that was a badass harai goshi. And I was like, in my mind, I was like, what is harai goshi?
Right. You just threw him.
Right. And so it all worked out. He told everybody I was good. All these people liked me. Everything was great. However, it could have turned out really bad because as it turns out, this guy was like 68 years old.
Right. You could have broke his leg.
I could have broke his leg. I could have gave him a concussion, could have killed him. And then everybody would be like, what the hell did you do? And you're like, getting rough,
right.
But the point is that like there are these within the techniques themselves, everyone should learn them. But the layers and the levels are the things that you hide. Like I can't tell you what technique I did. He said you did harai goshi. I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what I did. But all I did was reverse his reversal, and it worked out.
Right.
And then a year or two later, he did something else to me, and then I just let him punch me in the face. Because out of respect, finding out that, oh my gosh, this guy's 7th Dan, oh my gosh, this guy's over 70 now. When he reversed my technique, like he said, do the technique like this, and so I did it exactly his way. And then when I did it his way, he reversed he
Change the technique.
he changed it, and then he just punched me in the face. And then I was like, okay, thank you. And then he goes, you got it? And I go, yeah. And then the person I was working with is also an Aikido teacher. And he goes, did you get it? And I go, yeah, I got it. And we just started laughing.
So it sounds a little bit like some of what you've developed as a teacher and as a student are some algorithms or rules for how to do things. But one of the things you're talking about seems to me how to maintain an old school edge without hurting people, being disrespectful, not creating a good learning environment. But it sounds to me like a lot of what you're talking about is, specifically in terms of like private, non-private, is that there's probably some things that old schools did because they were trying to hide their content or they were fearful of being overthrown. But some of that old school mentality can be maintained with a different behavior. Yeah,
and because I also don't care. I go, oh, you want to hear the secrets? Let me tell you the secrets, because
most people won't pick them up.
Yeah, you won't. You're not skillful enough to pick them up. But two, what do you think? That's the only secret I got? Do you think that's the only thing I'm working on? I'm working on it right now. I'm working on something right now. So whatever I give you, I don't even care because I'm already moved on and working on this other thing. But it's really hard though, because if you think about what you're trying to teach people, are you trying to teach them the art of peace? Trying to teach them the art of war? It's really hard. And so if this 72-year-old grandmother is new to Aikido, should I sweep her leg?
Yeah, probably not.
No, man. Like, obviously she's here for probably the workout and maybe some self-defense aspects.
Yeah.
So should you crank the hell out of her wrist? Should I reverse her iriminage and choke her? Should I sweep her leg? No. Right? And so what I try to tell people is that you have to be able to look at the student and go, okay, this is what this person's, and ascertain their level. Because that's part of your training, is that you have to be able to look at someone and immediately know what their level is, or approximately. Right. So like when you made that mistake with that person, you assume that their level was X when their level is really Y.
Right.
So you have to be able to look at people and go, oh, you have to be able to kind of like weigh all the circumstances. Oh, he's 5'8". He's old. He's probably this age. His level's probably this. He's not wearing a black belt. He's just, and then go in an instant, and then know how hard you can train with that person. And generally, the best thing to do is go fast, but make the throw slow. That way, the person goes, oh, okay. But you can make everything fast up to that point. But you just make the throw slow. But what ends up happening is that every time, this is so ridiculous to me, but maybe I did this too when I was young, is that you make
I know what you're going to say.
You make everything slow, but then you make the throw fast. Yeah. Like a total jerk. No, you make everything fast as you want it to be, or as fast as to push them, but then you make the throw. You back off.
Yeah, it's funny that you mention that, because having done this for a long time now as a student, it's something that when someone does that, often what happens is you're practicing with someone and maybe you're practicing at a moderate level, or you're, as you say, you're backing off at the last moment of the throw, and then for no bad reason, you switch to the other person doing the technique and they go slow, and then at the last minute they try to break your neck.
Well, but that's very juvenile, but it's a very inexperienced way to do something.
Yeah, but I think it's a pretty standard progression that a lot of people go through that because when they're at the moment to do the throw, they're like, now I'm really gonna unload the technique. And as you say, like it's the entering, it's the unbalancing, it's whatever, all the things that lead up to the technique that allow you to do it.
Yeah.
But it's interesting how, I don't know about what it's like in other martial arts, but I know in Aikido that happens. The scenario you described happens almost in every class.
Yeah, with every technique. Yeah. But see, like for instance, once Doshu came to Hawaii, and I went and took the seminar, and everybody wants to train with Doshu's uke for whatever reason. And so one time I just happened to be after Doshu finished the technique and said for everyone to go do it, the guy was sitting right next to me, and then he looked at me and onegaishimasu.
Game was on.
And we're doing Shomenuchi Iriminage, which is probably one of my strongest techniques, right? And then this young person was like throwing me so hard into other people. There was no discrimination to like, oh, there's a person in your way. I'd just throw you right into them. And then I got up and then I didn't do that.
Right.
And then when I threw him, I totally even didn't do it hard.
Right.
And then everyone's like, dude, I saw him doing that to you. Why don't you cream him? And I go, you can't.
Right.
One, he's doshu's uke. And then you hurt him.
You're in big trouble.
Yeah. And then for what? You hurt him. And then doshu goes, who hurt you? And you go, oh, David Ito did.
Right.
And then
Black
the
ball.
seminar's ruined because you hurt the uke. And you're like, oh my God. And then what will they say? Too immature.
Right.
Look at this guy. And you go, no. He was throwing me super hard and throwing me into people. I mean, he was throwing me into people and I was like bowling them over like a bowling ball. And I was just like, man, does this guy know any better? It's super crowded. But then I know better. So then I just threw him very simply and very gently. But then, maybe my ego, it was hard on my ego because then that person, people were criticizing me for not smoking him, but also I thought, oh, maybe he doesn't respect me because I did that. Right. But then you have to go, man,
doesn't matter.
I don't really care. I don't need that anymore. But up until a certain level, I'm all like, I'm going to get that person. But then when weighing it, I'm like, oh, I'm going to get in too much trouble.
So how do Fuji's talking about teaching methodology. We've talked a lot about visiting other dojos, teaching seminars, students coming to our dojo. How do you, when you look at your own students in the dojo that have been here for quite a while, and they're going through that progression, and we are at this certain progression, and someone is visiting. Like I remember in the old days, sometimes Fuji Sensei would be like, "Oh, we're gonna have a visitor. Make sure everybody comes," with this sort of implied, like, yeah, go take it to the, like, some people you were told to take it to them and some people you weren't. But how do you instruct students that are on that path where they have to they almost like have to go through that ego phase? Do you just let people go through it? Or how do you?
I try not to, because by them going through it, the fodder of them going through it is
wreckage.
This person got wrecked.
Yeah.
So, for instance, the other day there was someone who was a student was being really rough on him, and then after he was being roughed up by the student, he punched the student. And then I go, okay, change partners.
Yeah.
And then the student told me, oh, I'm just going to go home now.
Really?
And I go, why? And he goes, because I did that and I shouldn't have done that. I go, no, you were right in doing that. That person was being a jerk. And I said, next time, just use your words.
Right.
Because that's what we're really trying to get to, a place where you don't have to beat them up. You could just use your words and go, hey, man, could you not do that?
Right.
I'm kind of tired today. Could you not bend my back? Could you not crank my neck like that? Would that be okay?
Right.
And then, but what ends up happening is you get mad and hold a grudge, and then you got to take it to them. All these different things ensue. But all you really had to do is use your words. So I told the person, no, man, it was right for you to stick up for yourself, and that's good.
Right.
Just next time, use your words.
Do you think people, because our practice are generally pretty quiet, do you think people in that scenario would have a hard time saying anything, or should they just respond by changing their behavior?
Well, both. It doesn't. I mean, you could change your behavior, or you could just whisper in the person's ear, hey, could you not do it so hard?
Back off, yeah.
And then because I'm sure that person's not a jerk, and they were just unaware that they were doing it that hard. But that's the hard part. We don't use our words, and then the other person misinterprets what we're doing, and then later on, like what my very second class in Aikido, this person who is now an Aikido teacher beat me up on the second day. And I was like, what the hell? Because I couldn't figure out how to roll, and the person just smashed me. And so for like 5 years, 3 or 4 years, I held a grudge.
Right.
Until the day I became a black belt, so I guess it's 3.5 years later, he reaches over and goes, good job, welcome to the club. But that whole time,
yeah, you hated this person.
I was like, I hate this person, man. Yeah, because he was such a jerk on the second day.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't need my butt kicked, but that's the hard part. Like, you look at someone, you think, does this person need their butt kicked? Does anyone need their butt kicked? No. And even if they do need their butt kicked, it's not your job to beat their ass.
Right.
But, I mean, I I'm the person that used to beat everyone up. So I understand, like, yeah, what that person's going through. But the thing is, you don't need to beat people up. It's not my job to be the executioner. It used to be my job to be the executioner. Right. I was the dojo enforcer. But today I realize, like, why can't you, as an adult, take that person aside and go, hey, it is inappropriate for you to choke this girl. And then that person looks at you and you go, so do you mind not doing it?
So this raises an interesting question, which is about martial arts schools, I think. And yours, as a teacher, I want to kind of run this by you because I think you and I have spoken about this offline, is that etiquette in Aikido has really helped maintain or contain egos. You know, having etiquette with respect to the space, with respect to your teacher, with respect to the other students. There's a lot of, and I think this is old school, there's a lot of old school protective respect built into the practice. And I'm just curious, like, have you seen, as martial arts has become more commodified, do you think that there's more need now than ever for a respectful type of training?
It's not that it's needed. It's just that, again, like, as I grow up, I go, why am I fighting all these people? It's such a waste of time. And then when I see someone younger than me that's doing it, I go, do you want to waste your time? Like, for instance, we have this one person who's a black belt now that when he was a white belt, a couple of black belts used to beat him up every day.
Okay.
And then I would always change partners, and I would always talk to the black belts, hey, man, don't do that. And then when this guy became a black belt, I saw him beating up people.
Right.
So I took him aside and I said, just because those people did it to you doesn't mean it's right.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, yeah, huh. But it didn't even occur to him. But that's the hard part. It's like, if I beat you up, you beat someone else up, that person beats another person up.
It's a cycle of abuse.
We think that it's the way, when it's not the way. It's so empty to be that way. But the reason why we want to be that way is it strokes our ego and allays our fears that maybe we're not good enough.
Right.
Right. And so it's my job as a teacher to let you know you don't need that.
Right.
But it's really hard. On a regular basis, I go, oh, I better stop doing that. Oh, I got to stop. Don't throttle this person. Don't break anybody's leg. Don't sweep them. Don't grab them by the neck. Don't choke them.
Do you think that's one reason why, for example, Second Doshu in his book, The Spirit of Aikido, or some of the other Shihans have so emphasized the prohibition against competition?
Yeah, because the competition brings out that ego. And even though there is no competition in Aikido, there's competition.
Right.
You want to see who's the best. One time I was at Homa Dojo, and there was this huge, like 6'5"
monster
guy from the Middle East. And the look on his face and his attitude and all this stuff for a class, I go, oh, that guy's got an attitude. I go, in my mind, I go, I'm going to end up training with that guy.
And you did.
And then I go, I don't want to, though, because I don't want to get into it. So I went to the very furthest part of the dojo away from this person. After we bowed in, Doshi did the warm-up. I looked next to me. He was sitting right next to me. I was like, oh, he's like, onegaishimasu. And the whole time he's like trying to take to me. And then I said, okay. And then took it to him. Yeah. And then afterwards he said, you're very good. And I go, oh, thanks. Right. Where are you from? I'm from, and I go, oh, that's nice. But like, I didn't want to, but my energy attracted that person.
Yeah.
And I was like, I go, oh, I know I'm going to end up with this person. And like, oh gosh, he's right next to me.
Well, that's what it brings up the last sentence of Fujiuji's question. And I'm just curious to get and if I have an idea, I'll answer too. But Fujiuji says, some things at my dojo would be 100% no-go, but are okay in other dojos. Is there anything, flipping this around, that you think of as a go here in the old school sense that you just don't transport with you when you're teaching other schools? Are there anything here that are you're greenlit to do as a student or a teacher at Aikido Center Los Angeles, that you clearly would say I'm not going to transport or bring that with me to a seminar?
Well, I mean, the main thing is that you should never show the hawk always hides its claws, because if you don't, you run the risk of it being like me, where people say, oh, you're immature.
Right.
Oh, you're like this. And then you go, no. But that person was doing it.
Too late.
Too late. We saw you doing it.
Yeah.
And that, it's kind of funny that Doshu was here in San Mateo, 2019, right before the pandemic.
Yeah.
And, he was going around throwing people, and then he threw me kotegaishi.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to breakfall, and he said, nai, which means no.
Right.
And I was like, oh, shoot.
Yeah.
And then he said, no, like that, and just walked away. And then you look around, he's throwing everyone breakfall. Everyone but me, right?
Right.
But you can interpret it all these different ways, but one of the ways you can interpret it is that certain people shouldn't show off.
Right.
While other people want to, other people, it doesn't matter. They should show off or not show off.
Right.
But it was like, but I was like, and then I asked one of the students, I go, hey, how was my breakfall? They go, dude, it was fine. And I go, what? Right. But you could take it personally that he doesn't want you to breakfall, or you could take it a different way that he doesn't want you to show off.
Right.
And so you're like, oh, because I have a certain relationship with Doshu. And so then he goes, nai. And you go, oh, and he scolded me. Right. And, like in Asian culture, if you're scolded, that means you have a closer relationship to that person. But
which is the reverse of a Western mentality. Right. Someone gets yelled at, you're like, damn it.
So, but I mean, this idea, which is some things are a go or some things are a no-go, or the go is always to just act with decorum and etiquette. Look at the person. Oh, he's a 75-year-old man. I probably shouldn't bounce his head off the mat, koshinage. But so you have to, the go-to thing is to always show restraint in Japanese culture. Always show restraint.
Yeah.
If you can take the lower position, you should take the lower position. Like there was a certain story about like Hideyoshi went to Senryukyu's tea house and demanded to, not Senrykyu, maybe it was just it was Senrykyu, but it wasn't Hideyoshi. A very high-ranking daimyo went to Senryukyu's tea hut and demanded to participate in a tea ceremony. And then Senrykyu said, you can participate, but the seats have already been settled. But you can participate and sit at the lowest ranking seat. And the daimyo said, hi, I'll do that. And then like it showed that person's ego wasn't such, because he agreeably took the lowest position. So that's why like we should never take the last dumpling, eat the last bit of rice, drink the last beer, beat someone up, do all these things, because it shows a certain level of selfishness, but not just selfishness, that you're kind of a barbarian.
Yeah.
Right. They say the glutton eats the last dumpling is their Japanese quote. The glutton eats the last thing, because you're not supposed to eat the last thing.
Right.
You're supposed to refrain. Oh no, you. Oh no, you. Bill, you eat it. No, you eat it. Because you're trying to show that level of respect and decorum. So the thing that you should always do is show decorum. The things you should not do is not show decorum.
So is there one thing, that if you had if we could teleport Fujiyuji to the other side of the table, is there, based on all these questions, is talking about old school versus new school, things you can teach in and outside your dojo, development as a teacher. It seems to me one aspect of old school is every generation looks at the previous generation as old school, or as someone gets older, like back in the day. Like we say that all the time, you, me, and Mike are like back in the day. So like, what do you think, this is a sort of a futuristic question, what do you think that we're doing now? People will look back on it and say, that was old school.
I think just training hard. Honestly, because you go to some of these Aikido schools and they go, yeah, we warmed up for 40 minutes. You're like, the class is 2.5 hours. I'm like, wow, 2.5 hours? Oh, yeah, well, the warm-up's 40 minutes.
Yeah.
40-minute warm-up, like, I don't know.
Do you think that as Aikido's gotten more talkative, that we're not getting the physical experience as much.
Well, not so much we are, just people in general not
Right.
getting that physical experience because of the internet or whatever it is that you go, what does he mean by sumkiri? Some of those things you have to learn with your body.
Right.
And so one of the things that I think for our school is to probably look back and go, man, those guys, it was really physical.
Right.
Not necessarily in a
Combative.
way. It's just
Energy.
in a cardio energy way, it's very physical. Because I feel that that's the way it's supposed to be. You're
Right.
supposed to train hard. You're supposed to sweat. You're not supposed to use your mind and think of, how do I get out of this problem? Because when the punch is coming, you can't think about getting out of the way. You must get out of the way.
Well, I agree with you. I think that that's probably going to be one of the things that people will look back on. Hopefully, it's not something that gets lost. I know. I'm just saying.
Knock on wood, right?
Knock on wood. It's been a very interesting discussion because I think that Fuji raises a lot of questions about Aikido, the way it's taught, and where Aikido's place will be in the pantheon of martial arts depends on how things are taught in the next 20 to 30 years, because all martial arts go through developments. They all change.
Yeah.
Do you, from an old school perspective, would you say that our relationship to Hombu Dojo is old school?
I think so.
Yeah.
But I mean, I can't be 100% sure, but I think so. Because we do a style which is very similar to third doshu and dojo chos. Everybody here trains hard. There's not a whole lot of people talking about it.
Right.
And that's not the way at Hombu Dojo. So I would hope it's very old school.
But it's part of what being old school is. I know, again, offline, you and I have spoken about this. I remember I had very limited discussion with Furia Sensei about this when he was still alive. Not that I would be the type of student he would talk to about this very much, but this idea that as part of what being old school is that at the Aikido Center of LA, that we're part of our mission of having koine and all these things is our commitment to the tradition.
Yeah. And people often ask me, what is Furia Sensei's style?
Right.
And I thought about, and the only thing I think about is Furia Sensei's style is that you must be serious about what it is you do.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a really good place to end.
I think so too. Fuji Yuji, I hope we answered somewhat of your question. If not, add some other questions or comments and we'll try to figure it out. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe or like this podcast. Thank you.
Thank you very much.